Caviar. Chris, not rock.
Who's gaming?
What's up, folks? This is Hit Points Gaming, podcast about the cost of video games, current day and retro. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Corey, how you doing?
Excellent, Doug. I'm glad to be back for this episode.
Awesome. So, Corey was out last time. He was not feeling too well. We are happy to have him back. Make sure you check out youtube.com/hitpointsgaming as well as Hit Points Gaming on the Spreaker Filling the Void podcast network. First, as always, what have you guys been up to? Chris, we'll start with you.
I'm still doing the same stuff, man. I'm still playing Heroes of the Storm. There's a big tournament going on soon. We're kind of like cheering on what team you want, to win in the international league. PUBG is still a lot of fun. Really, really enjoying that. I'm really upset that I'm enjoying it so much because it's such a large game. I want to get back into like indie game kind of scene, but it's just so much fun, man. When you have like one or three other people to play with, it's just such a blast. And hopefully we'll be having someone else join us soon, so it'll be even more fun.
Yeah, you might have two more players to the pool.
I can't wait.
Including myself and Mr. Jake. Hey, Corey, what have you been up to?
I'm just going to continue off of that whole PUBG thing. There's so many games that I want to play, but when everyone's online playing PUBG, it's just so much fun. It takes up every night that I'm playing, but that's a good sign. It's a good sign that it's a great game. What I picked up that new game called Pyre from Supergiant Games.
Okay. Same
makers of Bastion and Transistor. And it's pretty cool. There's this whole 3-on-3 sports type game. Blitzball meets NBA Jam kind of ish. It's a lot of fun, but in between these actual gaming events, there's a lot of dialogue that occurs. And I'm not against dialogue, but it's the same thing every time. So it's like if I want to jump into a game, I know I have to have 20 minutes because I have to go through the same 4 or 5 sets of dialogue. It's always, hey, let's go talk outside. Let's look up into the stars. Let's join together. Let's beat these guys. It's the same thing. So I don't know if that's going to change down the road. I'm slightly disappointed in the game as a whole, but the actual action of the game is a lot of fun.
Do you have to actually do the dialogue? Does that change anything?
Sometimes you have to. You have different choices that you have to select on things, and it gives you different abilities and items, and you don't really want to miss a conversation because there is your chance to unlock something. But I'm at the point now where it's just like, okay, A. Just keep progressing it. Unfortunately, I don't like doing that in games, but I want to get into why I purchased it,
Okay.
Just kind of weird. And the one other thing I want to touch base on is this hidden gem of a board game, and Doug, you've actually played it with us.
Oh, yeah.
Zaya. What an awesome 4X type board game, like exploring, ship battling, point
trading.
Gathering.
Yeah, it's cool.
Really cool. So we've been playing that for like 3 weeks in a row, and that's kind of what we've been up to.
Word. I personally, like I said, my gaming time now over the past 2 weeks has been severely cut because my baby is able to crawl and stand up on things, like hold the table and stand herself up, and that means that she is under constant surveillance. So I've been playing like games that I don't really care about so much. So I've been playing Ace Combat, Skies of Liberation, which is great, but I don't mind just pausing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not heavily into something. Like, I would never want to play a game like Breath of the Wild. I'm holding out on that because I don't want to have to pause the game every 2 minutes. That's just not really. That's not how I like to play games. So even when I get PUBG, it's going to be tricky because like it's going to have to be like, okay, mom, you have to watch the baby while I play games for a couple hours, and that's not always fair either. So
right.
It's tough, man. It's tough. When I do have the time, I'm trying to play VR stuff because I cannot at all have the baby while I'm doing that. So I've been playing Lone Echo and Echo Arena, which are crazy fantastic. Lone Echo is the single-player campaign of that, and you're basically a droid. Right now I'm helping this woman like rebuild her ship because there's some anomaly out in the distance, and just the whole movement system, which we already touched base on, is actually it's cool. So I've been doing some of that. As far as console games goes, Enter the Gungeon, I made it to like the 5th level, and it gets so tough. It gets really hard. But I really want to beat that. I really want to be able to beat it.
That's multiplayer, right? Enter the Gungeon?
Yeah.
Are you playing on Steam?
No. No.
Oh, okay.
I played. Yeah, my brother got an Xbox and we game share.
Okay.
But that's really it, man. Not too much gaming time, but I do try to fit in what I can. So, on to the topic at hand, which is the cost of games, something that I really am interested to talk about, actually. Let's start with, I guess, like Atari, Nintendo kind of time. I know that the cost of an Atari console was somewhere between like $125 and like $130, but that's back then. So
that's still that's cheap. $130 for a console.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's cheap, but it isn't. You know, you're talking. I don't even know what year that was. I know I had it when I was born, but I know the games are pretty cheap, right, Chris? What did the games go for?
They were like $20 for a game.
Okay, like 20. Damn,
you know?
$20.
They were, they're Atari games, you know. But I mean, at the time, that was video games. You know?
Right.
Could you imagine going out and spending $20 for like Horizon or Dark Souls? No way.
No. And it is to say that some Atari games are utter crap. Like you might pay $20 for, a generic race game, but a licensed game that's good, like Krull, you might pay $20. Like, man, this Atari game is great.
Right.
So, I guess it's a gamble, but you do the same gambles today, right?
Yes.
Same thing. What about Nintendo?
Well, the console was what, $200. I think we all three of us had a Nintendo.
Yeah.
That was $200, and the games were like $45 to $60, which is weird that there's there's a difference,
Well, I know for a fact that in the cartridge era as a whole, cost of games were drastically different from each other. I know for like even 64, NBA Hang Time, and this is something that I remember so specifically, that we went out to get NBA Hang Time for 64, which is like an NBA Jam offshoot, was $80 for that game.
Yeah, that's nuts.
$80, and it was an arcade port at the time, and the 64 version was very close. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of money for an NBA Jam game. $80 for NBA Jam. That's a ton of money.
I remember Street Fighter for Super Nintendo was $80, and Teenage Mutant Turtles 3 Manhattan Project for NES was $75. And we were so young back then. Like, I didn't buy the games. That's when it was like, oh, here's your birthday. You can go pick a game. Okay, great. I want this one. Oh, this one happens to be $75. Sorry, Dad. That's the one that I want.
Right.
So it didn't really affect us growing up, but we were kind of aware of the pricing. But I think maybe a generation after that, it's just like $60 was the price. It moved on to there was a flat rate, except for I think Nintendo was always $50.
Well, I want to say that like PS1, like PlayStation, was like the 39, 39?
Disc. They were CDs.
Discs? Yeah, I think they were 39 at the time. And then once you got to PS2, that's when it became the 50. And that was a long stretch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? That was a long stretch of GameCube, PS2, and OG Xbox where like $49.99 is a game, and I believe it came out to $52 even with tax. You know what? I'm almost 100% positive of that. And it wasn't until mid 360. Or no. Or was it the beginning where games were $60?
I think it was the beginning.
It was the beginning, okay. And that $50 I think was just standard for so long that when it went to 60, it was kind of like, man, this is expensive now. But I felt like when you got a game for $60 and it was Oblivion, it was like
that was the best deal ever.
It's the best game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Paying $60 for Oblivion, even not even talking about game length, but if you look at games like Condemned, like that game showed off the power of the console in the beginning. Really did. Perfect Dark Zero, not so much. Right? The game was terrible. But games like Condemned you were excited to play at the time. So $60 was like, man, like that was great. But in retrospect to like Super Nintendo and Sega for games to be $40, I mean, back then $40 was a little bit more money.
Yes. Yeah.
But again, it was the height of technology at the time. So when you go from Nintendo to Pilot Wings, which was great, and Pilot Wings was fairly straightforward.
Yep.
But then you look at a game like Mega Man X or Contra 3, like blows everything out of the water. Or Gunstar Hero, stuff like that. Chris, what do you feel about?
I remember buying Gunstar Heroes in GameStop, and it was $20. Now, and it was new, and I don't know if it was a sale or whatever, but like I absolutely love Gunstar Heroes. It's still one of my favorite games out there. And it was $20. I don't remember. I think it was. I don't know.
GameStop back then, really?
I don't know. It could have been. Okay. I just remember
Babbage's?
going in the mall. Yeah, maybe it was Babbage's. It was in
Babbage's.
the mall, all the way back in the back corner where no one goes.
That was Babbage's.
Yeah.
That was Babbage's.
But like, yeah, you're absolutely right, because there was Super Nintendo games out there that were $80. But most of them weren't that price. But you're paying for the technology. You were paying for a cartridge, and cartridges were expensive. 4 megabytes, 6 megabytes of memory. That was not cheap back then. And you're paying $80 for a game that is a Final Fantasy. Like huge, lots of game length, a lot of things in the game to be involved with. But then when PlayStation came out, you're on a disc. Discs were they were like $2-3 back then, and now they're like 10 cents. But like they were a whole lot cheaper than game carts, and then they passed that discount on to us, the gamers.
Right?
Which is pretty cool, because I didn't think they would. When you go back and think about how they're trying just to get money out of us.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen today. If they found the new medium for games for PlayStation 5 and Xbox, whatever number they decide to put on it, there's no way it would be cheaper.
Well, they've already got a new medium. Not to progress, 20 years in the future from what we're talking about. They've already got a medium. They have the internet.
Yep.
They pay for a server, right? Like,
yeah,
well, think of it this way. You've got digital games the same price of a physical copy.
That's what I'm saying.
There it is.
How is that?
That's exactly what I'm saying. We would not see the discount. We would not. No. Because right now, if I go to GameStop and buy Horizon, I'm paying $60 for a box. I guess there's no manuals, so we'll insert box inserts for DLC and a disc. Whereas if I bought it digitally, you get none of that, and still, it's the same.
Yep.
That to me is wild. By the way, that like I would, and I'm the guy who'd pay $65 for a disc. I really am, because I like to have my collection of games. You know what I mean?
Yes. I want to look at them. Yep.
I want to look at them. I want to go grab it off the shelf. And at some point, me being a future, kind of afraid in the future, one day, maybe you can't play them on that console. Right. I know I lost a ton, well, at least I will lose a ton of the indie games on Xbox 360. Not Xbox Live Arcade, but the ones that were like $1. Because you won't be able to, you have to authenticate those. So I'm going to lose like 40 games, that I just can't play anymore.
Okay.
And even there's even been games on Xbox Live Marketplace. I think Scott Pilgrim is one of them. That if I deleted that off my hard drive right now, I can't re-download it. It's off the market. So that's why disc. To me, still, I want that.
Right, and then there's also with disc, it's a tangible item, and I can say, hey, Doug, this game's really good. How about you play it? And I hand it off to you.
Yeah.
Like there's that opportunity. There's that opportunity out there for reselling it. Mm-hmm. Hey, I liked it. I beat it. Let me get some money back. Recuperate that. But there is nothing with digital, and yet they still charge the same price. There's no distribution. There's no nothing. Here's a server. It's online. Tie it to their server. Is done.
Yeah, that's kind of wild to me that's how it goes. As far as the price point for games is the same digitally. But then again, now with the indie market, we're getting games for $20.
Yeah,
$50. What PUBG is $30?
$30.
$30.
The game Corey and I are spending every